My trusty 1985 Buick Regal has lost spark. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Let's go through the process and show you how to figure this out so that way you can diagnose your own crank no start, ignition spark loss difficulties. Let's get going. First thing I'm doing, I'm breaking out the service manual to find the wiring diagram. And the second thing that I'm doing is I've got a checklist that helps me go through all my electrical diagnostic stuff so that way I don't miss a step or miss something completely obvious. You can get this electrical diagnostic checklist. It's in the description. Go ahead and click that link. Totally free. I just want to help you guys out and get your cars running the way you want them to. So let's move over and take a look and I'll go through stuff. So when you're first starting out on troubleshooting, you really want to know the condition of your battery to start with. So I'm just going to check the battery voltage, and if it's not where it needs to be, it's going to get charged. This one is a little low at 11 volts, but it should start at that voltage. It should also crank. Now, while we're here, it's worth noting the condition of your battery cables and all the connections here to make sure that you're getting good connection. Now, the next, unfortunately difficult one to get to is down on the starter. GM likes to put their master power distribution right down there on the starter, which is a pain in the butt to get to unless you're under the car. But you can kind of wiggle your battery cable a little bit, and if that fixes the problem, great. But that connection can be a problem. It can get loose, it can get crappy because it's down there where oil drips on it and all that stuff. So make sure your battery is in good shape, your battery cables, you've got good voltage next, and then let's go to the fuse. And also, while you're here, if you were to reach over and push on the power wire for the distributor, this is an HEI, and just make sure that's connected. That's never a bad thing. But the next step, let's go check the fuse. And since that battery voltage is a little bit low, I'm going to get a charger on it to bring it up to 12 volts. So the fuse checks out okay, and while I'm here, I took my multimeter and touched the hot side of where the fuse would come in and make sure that I've got good voltage there. There is a power distribution that comes into the fuse block and out to all the other fuses. It makes sense to make sure that you've got good power there, because if you don't, nothing else is going to work right. So, one more item of note. Ouch. Feel on a rock. Steering wheels. On these GM tilt telescoping wheels, if your column is loose where the tilt mechanism is and it wiggles back and forth a bunch, that actually can cause problems at the starter switch on top of the column, which is way under here, and that can actually cause all sorts of issues where it's putting power to the wrong place and engaging something incorrectly. So if your column is loose, that is something you're going to want to take care of. I'll have to do another video on that in the future, because it's a little bit of an involved process to take the steering wheel off, go all the way down to tighten the 4 bolts that are in the column and put it all back together. So short term, this is good. I'm also going to make sure that the connection on top of the where the ignition switch is on top of the column, I'm going to make sure that's pressed into place nicely too. You also have the neutral safety switch where your column shift goes. You're going to want to make sure that you have power through all those things and the connections are good. So just going through this one step at a time. Okay, so after we verified all the connections on the inside of the steering column are good, let's verify that we have power out here with the key on, because otherwise, this is a keyed circuit, it'll never have power. And just to verify, the key is off. I do not have power now, so let me turn the key on and let's verify power. All right, key is on, the probe is in there. I got 12.5 volts to the distributor, so I know the problem is not with the rest of the wiring harness. The problem is inside the distributor. And I've got a pretty good idea where this is going, but I don't want to guess. I want to test this first and make sure I'm not spending money I don't have to. So we're going to look at the ignition coil and prove that that's good, but I'm going to go grab an extra coil that I've got and show you how to test that before we tear this apart. So here's my extra HEI coil, and there's a reason this one's an extra, and I'll show you why. The primary windings here, the two blade things, they want to be between 0 and 1 ohm. And we're getting a reading now, and it typically goes to about 0.5 ohm, but as this one sits here for a minute, it tends to creep up a little bit. This one did work when it came out of the car, so that's not like a hard and fast rule. Now, the secondary winding is between the little black ground lug here and the discharge spot where it goes to the distributor to put spark to everything else. It wants to be between 3,000 and 30,000 ohms. So this is 8.76 kilo ohms. This one is good, technically. The primary side is a little questionable, which is why this one's sitting aside, and it's not one that I've got in any cars, but it's a good one to be able to show this with. So that means the unfortunate news is the distributor's got to come apart. This is extremely likely, like I'm going to give it 90+% that the ignition module has failed. Now somebody's going to say, well, what about the magnetic pickup? Those don't usually fail. I've only replaced one in my entire 20 years of doing this, and that was because I suspected that I might not be getting a clean reading off of it, and that was on my El Camino, my race car, where I depend on that thing to be rigidly consistent. So, you can actually test a magnetic pickup with an oscilloscope or a lab scope. I actually don't have one, but you can actually spin the distributor and you can see that you get pluses and minuses and bugs in your face and who knows whatever else. But the point remains is that I've already done lots of videos about replacing the ignition module on these things. I'm going to put a link to the video up here in one of the corners somewhere so that way you can see it. I'm going to get the module changed off and come back to this in just a minute. And plus, with this being a 3.8 Buick, the distributor sits kind of funny, and we've got this air pump sitting here. It's going to be very hard for me to show you the replacement process, but it's pretty easy. Just take it apart, swap the module, use the heat paste, put it back together. So with the ignition module replaced, it's now time to prove if this thing is going to run or not. And I'm very certain it's going to run. Now, it is worth noting that I did not test the coil, or I did not show testing the coil that's in the car. It came out just fine. It didn't creep when I had the voltmeter clipped on the primary windings for any length of time. So I'm going to hit the key. It's going to take a little bit because I got to pump the gas and there's no fuel in the carburetor, but I'm 90% certain it'll start, and then we're going to talk about one more thing to keep in mind after it's running to prevent future problems. So, 1 second, please. Runs pretty decent once it gets moving. I got to adjust the choke just a little bit, but at the moment in this heat, not really much of an issue. So I'm going to move the camera and show you the last thing that needs to be looked at before we call it done. So the last thing to check is your charging alternator voltage. This one's putting out at like a textbook perfect, oh, I nudged it, 14.4 volts. So that's a good sign. That means it's not overcharging. Let me shut this off and I'll tell you why that's important. I'm back. So if you have an overcharging difficulty, and there's a wasp buzzing around, let's ignore him. If you have an overcharging difficulty, feeding too much voltage, or even current to that matter, but let's stick with voltage. If you're running 15, 16 volts, that can actually be harmful to the ignition module and some of those other electronics that are in there. The point is that if you have an overcharging situation, you really need to correct that by making sure your alternator is in good working order. Take it someplace where they can test it. It may just need to be replaced with a faulty voltage regulator that's running high. If you're running 14.5, 6 volts, I probably wouldn't question it. But if you're running 15, 16, 17 volts, which has been known to happen on these, that could actually be a problem. So make sure that you check your charging voltage is correct. And you can see how it's really not that hard to diagnose some of these things on these vehicles. Now, make sure you check the description for the link to that free electrical diagnostic checklist. Now, this car is a great car, even with its boring 3.8 Buick. It's just a great car. It runs, it does the things, it's made the drive from Utah here to Missouri. I love the car. Nothing more I can say about it. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.